this one I really like. And what happens with me generally, and I mentioned this on our other episode, is I will get the new album and I'll listen to it over and over again. And usually, a couple songs kind of jump out at me, and there's usually one that's, really my favorite that I just kind of keep playing over and over again. And then I'll kind of go back and listen to the whole thing and discover some others and things like that. And Death in My Hometown jumped out at me from the jump. And I love that song. I still love it. I love the production. I love all the different sound effects. It hits right where it needs to hit for, impact with the lyrics. And ironically, I don't really care for it live. It doesn't have the same energy, and they kind of drag it out. The intro is real drug out and stuff like that. So it's fun if you're there, but I don't really listen to it on any of the Nugs releases or anything. It's just, it's kind of, stale for me there. But on that album, I think it's almost a perfect track. It's probably my favorite on Wrecking Ball.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and in a timey-wimey bit of business, this is not the first episode you are hearing in 2022, but it is the first new episode I'm recording in 2022, and I have repeat guest Ron joining me to kick off the new year. Happy New Year, Ron. Welcome to the show again.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me back. I had a blast last time. I'm excited to do it again. And last time, I think I stumbled onto the fact that it was the 1 year birthday of Letter to You.
Yes.
The day we did it. And this time it is the 39th birthday of Greetings from Asbury Park. So,
yes, I saw that. That's pretty interesting. My shirt too. Yay, I see that. That's good. So in case someone has not listened to your earlier episode, tell us a little about yourself.
Midwest guy, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, kind of born and raised. I have triplet daughters plus an older daughter, so I've got 4 girls, which is fun. And other than that, I'm in the medical field. I'm a surgical technician, work for a private practice oral surgery group, parent, and raising kids through this crazy time, and also being a healthcare professional in this crazy time. So it's been a crazy time. But,
yeah, Ron was back on the show back at the end of November. He talked about finding Bruce through 10th Avenue Freeze Out. He tells a lovely story about living proof and his daughter. And so we had a great time talking. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I'd like to come back. And he suggested a couple of topics. And the one we've settled on tonight is so epic that we'll actually end up doing 2 episodes. So this is part 1. In a couple of days, you'll hear part 2. But I'll let you do the honors, Ron. What topic did you give us?
Well, tonight, I gave you 2 topics, but tonight what we settled on was doing the best songs from the last 10 years. So 2010 through 2020. So that takes into account, I guess, The Promise through Letter to You in terms of Bruce's studio albums. As far as rules that we came up with, I guess, the best way I thought to do this was to kind of avoid things like that's already appeared on tracks. So if you look at the River box set, there's a lot of songs we've already heard, same with The Promise, or things that were recorded in the 70s and then finally put out that doesn't really, to me, kind of count as a 2010 through 2020 song. However, something like, Meet Me in the City Tonight from the River box set, which is obviously a current vocal, and they did it now, and they did live renditions of it on Saturday Night Live and in concert and stuff. I feel like that does count. So most of mine are from the studio albums. I don't have too many outtakes anyway. I don't know what yours is going to look like.
So I actually have a few that I think kind of break that rule. What I did is I looked at each release, starting at the Promise box set, and went through each release and just wrote down, okay, here, if I was making a mixtape or highlighting, what would I do? And that got me about 25, 30 songs. And then I said, okay, I got to whittle it down to 20. So we got that. So there are songs that I really think are more important than these, but and there's a couple that I really love I had to leave off, but I think it'll be a fun discussion. So just so you know, we're not ranking these. What we decided, and Ron and I had a lot of fun back and forth on email, is we're going to do this in chronological and then alphabetical. So for example, we will Letter to You, and then whatever songs we picked from Letter to You, we did them in alphabetical order. So I ended up with my first song and my last song are both really strong songs from my from my perspective. So that's how I did mine. How did you pick your songs?
Well, like I said, I kind of had a bit of a head start on this, I think, because I found it on, it's a conversation on Twitter and stuff like that. So I already had kind of a template of it. And then when I was just thinking to myself, okay, what would my top 20 songs be? I kind of went through just album to album, and I think I had them, not alphabetical, but chronological. So when I wrote it down, I was just looking at the back of the jacket and, whatever order they were in on Wrecking Ball or whatever is kind of how I wrote them down. But doing it alphabetical is certainly fine too. So
yeah, however we got that. All right. So we're going to start off with you. What is the first song of this last decade that you would have say is one of your favorites? Let's put it this way, not necessarily Bruce's best, but one of your favorites.
Right. So going back then to 2010 with The Promise, I'm going to go with Save My Love. It was the first song released from that project or that box under sort of the new song moniker. I don't know if you call it a single back then, although there was a little video for it and everything. It's just a song that I've kind of come to really appreciate over the years. At first, it sounded kind of like what it is, an outtake or something of a throwaway, but it's grown on me over the years. And spoiler alert, it's the only song I have from The Promise, so I felt like I had to represent that one. There's other ones on there I love. I initially had at number 2 was going to be Ain't Good Enough for You, but then I realized that breaks my rule of it's recorded in the 70s and it's not really a new song, so that makes room for something else down the road. But yeah, so Save My Love, there's, like I said, other ones on there I really like, but I think that's the only one that kind of falls into the categories we've set here. So
so I am breaking your rule. My number 1 is Ain't Good Enough for You.
All right, fair enough. At least we got it on.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite songs. It was a song that I truly wanted to hear live and he never did it, though he did do it in that Carousel show, right? Yeah. And I have, there are people that are praying to the E Street Jesus that we get tracks too. Right. I want just that whole Carousel show released on Blu-ray or DVD or something, even online where I could, because I would just love to see this it was Clarence's last performances. It just, every year I watch the Blue Christmas, during the holiday season. So it's my first one on the list. My second one is Save My Love.
Okay.
So we're in sync there. What's number 2 for you?
Yeah, they did release I was going to say they did release a like a edited version of that show on DVD back at the time. I think it was
you had to buy.
But yeah, it'd be nice to have the whole thing, and also with the documentary. Yeah, just by itself, the Blu-ray. Yeah, that's.
And I'd already bought the big set, so yes, so it wasn't enough just to get those songs. I remember that at the time. Yes.
Yeah, but the other thing that I was thinking they could do or should do is take advantage of the Nugs stuff and maybe make that one of their holiday releases or something.
That would be good. That would be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though it's only 9 songs or whatever that is, 10 songs or something.
Oh, that'd be a fun one. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
good job.
So that's one way to get it out, I guess. But
okay.
All right. So for me, number 2 is, I'm going to go back to my list because I didn't do it alphabetically. So let me look at all the.
Oh no, just do them chronological. That's fine.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with "We Take Care of Our Own," first song off Wrecking Ball. So that's 2012. Again, kind of like Save My Love, first one released in advance of the project, and you know how it goes. Those come out, and then we just devour them over and over again until the album proper comes out and we see what else is on there. I think I was a little taken aback by it, you know, initially. You know, it's got a different sound for him, all the drum loops and that kind of thing, and you know, the whole album has a lot of that on there. But it's one of those that you know, I just listened to it incessantly, not even sure, you know, how much I liked it, but over time it's really grown on me, kind of like Save My Love. And now if it pops on in the car or whatever, I really like it. I love it live. I don't know if you remember his initial intro. Started with the Apollo, but he did it for the whole like kind of first leg of the tour, where he came out and kind of introduced himself as if he was the, you know, the announcer at the Apollo, and he kind of ran down some of his hits and gave us a little introduction there. And then they kind of, you know, bam, went into that song, and that was super cool live. So as a lot of times happens with Bruce, you see it live, and then all of a sudden it kind of changes your whole opinion of it or whatever. So.
Yeah, a few years ago, we did an episode where we picked our favorite songs, opening songs on shows we'd actually attended. We just, you know, and We Take Care of Our Own made one of them. There's a song, spoilers, that made my list. That's another great opener.
Okay,
yeah, We Take Care of My Own made my list as well. I just think it is a great song, a great video that went with it, you know, talking about Katrina and the whole idea of, you know, and as same thing as Born in the USA, the lyrics mean something different than what they're saying is, you know, because we don't take care of our own.
Right.
And we should. And I know that like especially Donna with Bruce Funds was talking about, you know, we do say that among Bruce fans, you know, we take care of our own for that shot for it did. So my second breaking is The Promise, which I realized was leased over, but it was the first having that released on there. And I know it was on like the mini tracks, but it was such a powerful song to me that I included it. So I kind of now feel like I should have picked another song now that I think about that. But yeah, I just think that was
fine. Rules are made to be broken.
Exactly. Yes. Because
go with your heart and your gut.
Yeah, because there's actually there's a lot of things on that Promise that I know Little Steven, when they toured, would have loved to do 2 or 3 songs from there. So yeah. What's number?
Yeah, I don't understand how he doesn't get. Hold on, I think I'm losing you here. Sorry.
All right, I'm going to turn off my camera.
Are you okay? You got me?
Let's turn off our cameras because sometimes that helps bandwidth.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, sure.
Good.
All
right, got it. Yeah, let's try again. Okay, so yeah, I was saying that, you know, Lil Steven, I know, had talked about they would have loved to play some of these live, and you were saying that you don't understand sometimes why, right?
Yeah, I understand why he wants to play him live. I don't understand why, you know, it's such a hassle to get Bruce to kind of get out of that box sometimes. And, you know, especially
I agree.
That kind of prides themselves on, you know, kind of pulling stuff out of the box and being, you know, unpredictable and doing some of these deep cuts for fans. It's just, it's mind boggling, especially on the River tour where, you know, they did that whole box set and then went out and toured behind it and then just kind of left all the outtakes. I thought if any time we were going to get some of those outtakes, that would have been it. But
it was
to be, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what's number 3 for you?
Number 3, just following along again in chronological order on the album Wrecking Ball, would be Death to My Hometown. And this one I really like. And what happens with me generally, and I mentioned this on our other episode, is I will get the new album and I'll listen to it over and over again. And usually, you know, a couple songs kind of jump out at me, and there's usually one that's, really my favorite that I just kind of keep playing over and over again. And then I'll kind of go back and listen to the whole thing and discover some others and things like that. And Death to My Hometown jumped out at me from the jump. And I love that song. I still love it. I love the production. I love all the different sound effects. It hits right where it needs to hit for, impact with the lyrics. And ironically, I don't really care for it live. It doesn't have the same energy, and they kind of drag it out. The intro is real drug out and stuff like that. So it's fun if you're there, but I don't really listen to it on any of the Nugs releases or anything. It's just, it's kind of, stale for me there. But on that album, I think it's almost a perfect track. It's probably my favorite on Wrecking Ball. So.
It also made my list. Shackled and Drawn didn't make my list though, because I had to cut it down. It originally made my list. Shackled and Drawn is a song that I really love live. I love that, they end up doing the chorus line at the end with everyone and stuff. So yeah, I love the anger to Death to My Hometown. And so great song. Mine is American Land, because I'm doing alphabetical order. Okay. I think American Land is what Land of Hope and what Born in the USA is. A lot of people think. I think American Land is that, talking about, even though there is of how, the people who built this country, they're trying to keep out. I think American Land is a lot about the beauty of this country and what we're doing. When the guys who did Bruce Springsteen Sings the Alphabet, they said that it actually reminds them of Feifel in American, the American Tale, that song about, coming to America and everything. So American Land, when he toured for a while there, that was one of the final songs. And I just love that energy, and that it's almost this Irish ballad and this craziness and energy on stage. So that's one of my favorite songs.
I agree. We might be talking about it again in a little bit here, I guess.
Oh, okay. Very nice. So my next one would have been Death to My Hometown. Okay. So what do you got? What's your number 4?
Number 4 is This Depression. That's another one that kind of grabbed me from the jump. And it's, I know when he kind of came out with his, autobiography, and was talking about how he was, struggling with depression and all that. A lot of people all of a sudden kind of latched onto that song, but I loved it from the beginning. And this is another case of, and I've got a couple songs like this on this list where I don't really know what the record company is thinking, or maybe I'm a terrible A&R guy or something, but I hear a song like that and I go, why is this not playing over a movie trailer for some, drama, about, some relationship, where it boggles my mind that some of these songs are kind of buried and don't come out as singles. And I don't know what single really means nowadays for artists, and especially an artist like Bruce, but it seems like I've got others on this list where it seems like a no-brainer to try to sell those in that way. And I don't know if Bruce doesn't care about that, or the Sony just doesn't care about trying to market him, or it's a Landau thing, or what. And I'm not saying it has to be these specific songs that I think would make it, but they don't get them out there enough. And, I hear songs all day long at work and stuff that are, popular and serious. And I'm just like, Bruce would fit right in with any of this, especially when you hear it from a different classic rocker, like, Bon Jovi still gets his new songs played for some reason. And it's disappointing and kind of depressing that, some of these songs are left by the wayside as far as Bruce is concerned. But anyway, that song, I love the lyrics. I love the production. Again, Wrecking Ball is just filled with a lot of very interesting production. And that's another one right there. So.
Yeah. Wrecking Ball is the album that made the most on my list. That is one of my favorite albums. I love it. This Depression didn't make it, though. It was in my initial discussion. It's good, kind of jumping ahead. I understand that this is the reality, but it seems like that if someone had thought to reach out to country stations with Bruce Springsteen doing a cover of Rhinestone Cowboy, it seems like there should be a song there. There should be a playlist on that, and I guess because playlists are not what they, they're so programming but it just seems like, this is your country. Here we have Bruce Springsteen doing Rhinestone Cowboy. Seems like that should get some airplay.
Or just the fact that he covered it, and it's a big popular song that people know. And I don't know, that's the kind of thing that a decade or maybe two ago, I don't know when it all changed, but that you think they would have just tried to market in some way or put out
exactly.
There. Yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be the songs that I think, somebody might be like, oh, this depression, that's not going to hit at radio. Like whatever your thoughts are, there's just an obvious, downturn even bothering to put out, give him radio play. And and even if it's not going to be a radio hit, like I said, throw in a movie trailer or find somewhere where it is thematically appropriate and just sounds like a good. I mean, one of his biggest songs is from a movie. Try to do that again or whatever. But just it's kind of odd that doesn't happen. So.
And what happened is that may end up happening with Sony now owning his catalog, right? That they might want to do a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the upside of that.
Yeah. Number 5 is Death to My Hometown. What is your number 5?
Wrecking Ball, which is a song that I didn't love initially. They played it initially as that kind of swan song to Giants Stadium, and everybody kind of thought it was a lark or whatever. And then when the album came out and actually, first of all, he started playing it every night throughout the rest of the tour. And I remember comments with people going like, "Oh my God, he thinks this is a real song," And then when they announced that they were naming the album that, they were like, "Oh, geez, here's a heavy-handed metaphor for whatever." But I think over the years, or at least, even after that album just came out and with the tour and everything, I think it settled into being exactly what Bruce wanted it to be. It might have seemed a little suspect at first, but, and I really like the album version better than the live version. Again, I don't normally like stuff that's really overproduced, but I will take that song in the studio. I'll take Death to My Hometown in the studio. I'll take Land of Hope and Dreams in the studio, and I will take American Land in the studio. And it's not for any reason like I don't like the way the E Street Band plays it. It's just they sound so much more vital and fresh for some reason on that album. And I don't know if it's the production or what, but Wrecking Ball is a perfect example though. I love it on the album. I rarely listen to it live, kind of like Death to My Hometown. So
yeah, it made my list. I love it. I think I remember Dave Marsh said that, this is what Bruce feels about turning, I think 60 I think it was 60. It would be the right time frame. And I do love that. You're right. It was just kind of, we're here to turn the place down and we're talking about it, but it did revolve into more about, no matter what life is giving you, facing it and bringing it on. So definitely on my list. And I enjoy, as you said, there's a lot of these songs that you may not want to hear on the Nugs release, but when you're in that arena and hearing that, there is a lot of power to that, especially when he starts out kind of quiet and then the whole band joins him with it, bring on that wrecking ball.
Well, the problem with the Nugs releases is when you have now I haven't been counting, but they've been doing this for like 7 years and there's one a month, so do the math, but you're talking like 100 shows. It gets a little old. Plus, if you're a big fan, you've already had the bootlegs and you've seen the live YouTubes and everything a million times. So it's something I just kind of skip on those because it seems just kind of perfunctory or whatever. I mean, there's just so many versions of that if they released those.
Well, Terry Smith and I started out reviewing the Nugs, and then so often it comes back, and this is just my only opinion. They release something that was on, they've already done a show, and there's only one song different on that set list from, and I'm like, I realize $9.95 is not a lot of money, but am I really going to listen? I already have the show except for that one song. Now, maybe if it was a rarity, I don't know, but it just seems.
Well, I'm of the frame of mind that, it's not just about the set list. I do get why, if the show is high energy or impressive to whatever degree, then great, put it out. And I'm always looking for the best, like I'll listen to it all once, I'm always looking for that version of, Say We Take Care of Our Own that kind of blew me away when I was there in person. But I feel like unless they actually release the show I saw, I'm probably not going to find it. So even though I listened to that and I listened to the umpteenth version of Wrecking Ball, I don't really go back and do it too much unless one really grabs me. Then I'll put it on a playlist and hang on to it. And say this is the definitive version. But yeah, for the most part, the album version is the definitive version for me. So,
all right, what's your number 6?
Number 6, I think. Hold on, my phone went out on me. I'm reading off my notes. I think it's Rocky Ground. Rocky Ground is number 6. Love it. I don't know. That's another one that was a little controversial, just because there's a rap in here and all this other stuff. But I don't know. I love the lyrics, the stuff about the 40 days of nights and rain. We'll watch these planes and the money changers and this temple not standing. I mean, talk about a topical song where Bruce melds his sort of Catholic and religious imagery into something that pertains to his thesis statement, which in this case is the recession and politics and all that. That song is killer, and I love the I'm a soldier and live again. Here's one instance where I might like it better live. I like that Bruce actually sang that. He was screaming into the microphone, "I'm a soldier," every whatever it is, and I thought that was really cool, and that one really has a lot of power and passion live. So that's maybe one that I would like to have a great live version of. I think we do out there, but yeah.
Absolutely. It made my list. Couple of things I always think of, Ron, is Wrecking Ball was kind of the first Bruce Springsteen album since Born in the USA that my wife kind of embraced. We were going to see him in concert for the second time for her, and we were going up to Cleveland, and it was the Wrecking Ball tour. So she was listening to that CD and ended up loving it. And my wife loves to go outside camping and hiking. And she was like, anytime she was hiking and then, on like rocks or going up, she'd even climbing on rocky ground, and just in her mind over and over again. Yeah. So absolutely great. My 6 is Jack of all trades. Okay. The reason why, and I've shared this before, I've been lucky enough to have 4 fathers in my life. I had my birth father, Gramps, as my son called him. My paternal grandfather was absolutely great to me. He was a dairy farmer. We spent a lot of time together. He taught me a lot of things. My wife's father, my father-in-law, was just amazing to me. And then my mom and dad divorced, and I had a stepdad, Kenneth. And Kenneth was, he was an oil field worker. He was a carpenter. He could fix anything. And he truly was a jack of all trades.
That's my dad too. He was definitely like that. And I lost him to cancer a couple of years ago, and I still feel like every time I don't know how to, do the simplest thing around the house or whatever, he's like, shaking his fist at me from, wherever he is, and he's like, "You're not my son," because he tried to teach me all that stuff. But
well, same thing. I remember being a teenager and rolling my eyes when he's trying to teach me how to change the oil in the car. Yeah, right. And this is like 74, 75, so there wasn't, standalone oil change, places like there is now.
And you couldn't YouTube it just to see how to.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I first played the song for Linda, she was like, "Oh, that's Kenneth. That's Papa Kenneth," and everything. And then the song has that end. If I had a gun, I'd go. She goes, "Where did that dark turn come from?" Like she's like, "Oh my goodness, I love this song," and then it turned dark. So I was. One of the last time I saw the band, not counting when I lucky enough to go to New York, was in New York, and they had the strings to do New York Serenade, and the strings came out to do Jack of all trades with him. And
I saw it in Chicago too. Yeah, they did the same thing. They pulled it out there again at the end for a little bit on the 2016 run, and I don't know if it was with the impending election, or I don't remember exactly what was going on economically in the country, but they went back to that, and that's good. It didn't make my list. I feel like it's just a little too I don't know what the term is. Like, I feel like Bruce could have wrote that song in his sleep, I guess.
Sure.
name checking different jobs and everything. And don't get me wrong, it's I totally get what you're saying. And like I said, I feel that way about my dad too. And I can see why people who probably had a really hard time during the recession and whatnot felt that way and went through that. And I think for that, it's cathartic and emotional and all those things. And it's a pretty song. I just try to keep it to 20 here.
Well, absolutely. And I think the same thing, right? So my number 7 is Land of Hope and Dreams. I know technically it came out, in '99 on the live version. I broke this law because it's my favorite. If someone asks me, what is your favorite Bruce Springsteen song? I tell them Land of Hope and Dreams.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before.
Every time, so that was going to make my list.
Gotcha.
So how about you? What is your number 7?
It is Land of Hope and Dreams.
Okay.
From Wrecking Ball. Yeah, I love the live version, and I always have loved it. However, I feel like it kind of lost me a little bit as the years went on. They certainly played it a lot, trotted it out a lot, and I think it it's one of those songs that I don't know if it needs a third verse or a shorter ending or what. But I liked it a lot initially, and I used to listen to it all the time on the Live in New York CD and stuff. But then I kind of just put it in the background a little more. But I do really like this version on Wrecking Ball, and I won't say it's better. I know there's kind of that Tinker Toy sounding drum machine in there that some people don't like, but I don't know, something about it. I think it's a little tighter than the the live cut. I like the kind of gospel choir that opens it up, or the singers. Mm-hmm. And again, on the tour, they really nailed it with that, because they kind of did that thing to open it. And he dropped it fairly quickly. I saw a great show in Tampa, and that's the one I'm kind of referencing when I talk about my favorite We Take Care of Our Own opener. And there was a great 41 shots in that show because of the Trayvon Martin thing had just happened. And then they did that, and it really kind of solidified that song, or made it click for me in a way it hadn't yet, or at least hadn't in years, and gave me a newfound appreciation for it. And that's the version I usually put on if I want to listen to that song. So.
Yeah, someone mentioned once on Twitter, and I think he doesn't do it all the time, but for a long time it was, and this is Land of Hope and Dreams. Like, he does always. An introduction to all these songs, and it just seems so nice to that. Yeah, it is. I'm always thrilled when he does it, whether it was at Jon Stewart's last episode or at the inauguration. Well,
that's another thing. It always seems like his go-to to kind of trot out, so that might be another reason why kind of, anytime he has a telethon or something, that's when he plays. So, but I do like hearing it in a new arrangement or new vein.
So, in our 2021 year in review, I said that it was Bruce's version of Ray Charles's America the Beautiful.
Yeah, I heard that. Great episode, by the way. I was going to tell you, I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I thought I thought we had so much fun talking, and and it was fun. Yeah, but that was great. All right. So what's your number 8?
Number 8 is American Land. Okay. I know you already mentioned it. That's going chronologically. Again, that one I definitely like more than the live. I saw the Seeger Sessions tour. I told you a little story last time about how my girlfriend at the time, we went there, and I ended up pulling my own wristband number. So we were the first people through the through the gate, and elbows on the stage, and people thought I cheated or something. But so that was, I think, the first time I saw that or heard that song. I can't remember if it was maybe already released as like some sort of live video single or something like that, because they had that American Land edition of that album where they tacked on the live version of that. But I think that came after I saw that. But anyway, so that was the first time I heard it, and I was kind of like, whoa, what's that? And it's a little more bagpipey and kind of whatever on the tour. But I think when they took it into the studio, there's this like hard distorted edge kind of going through it in the background. Like the guitar is real prominent, and kind of like Death to My Hometown, when they hit the certain lines, like the land's always trying to keep out, they sing it really loud, and there's like an effect in the background and all that. And I get that maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea to have more of that stuff going on, but again, for whatever reason on Wrecking Ball, like all that stuff just works for me. I don't particularly love a lot of the modern flourishes, well, modern at the time, on like Born in the USA and stuff like that. I get why people say that much synth. But on Wrecking Ball, you know, I was a little skeptical at first. I was like, wow, this is pretty weird. I don't know how people are gonna, you know, take this. But over the years, that album has aged wonderfully. And again, Land of Hope and Dreams, if I'm gonna listen to that song, that's the version I'm putting on. So
Yeah, great thing. My number 9, my number 8 was Rocky Ground. My number 9's We Take Care of Our Own. We've talked about both of them. So what's your number 9?
Well, mine jumps now to a new album, which is High Hopes, and it is Just Like Firewood.
Oh, nice.
Which I think is just a rockin' good song. I know it's a cover, and I like the original version too. I didn't know of it, I don't think, until I heard Bruce was covering it, and then I went and sought it out. And before he put out High Hopes, I was listening to, you know, I downloaded the Saints album, and I was listening to all that. So yeah, and I liked it. I think when I initially heard it, I was like, it didn't, because I was so used to the Saints version by that point. There was, I don't remember exactly what I thought was off. I don't know if it was a little bit slower or something. It took me a little while to kind of come around to it, but now I really love it. When it pops on the iPod or something, I always jamming along to it. I never skip it or anything like that. So it's
yeah. You know, you talked about, I do that on where there's a new CD, and I will pick my 4 or 5 favorite songs, and I'll just, you know, skip to then listen to this one, this one. And Just Like the Firewood was one of the songs that I just loved hearing. I know that a lot of hardcore fans were kind of disappointed in High Hopes because, you know, a lot of these were bootlegs and other things. And I am not active in the bootleg community. I do not get any bootlegs. So they were new songs to me, except for the couple of remakes. So Just Like the Firewood made my original like 25 list, but I had to cut it off just because so I'm so glad it made the list.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. I mean, it's kind of I can see how you'd kind of forget about it, or not you necessarily, but you know, the average listener would. But it's just it's a fun rock song. They don't really do enough like that, frankly. It's unfortunate that they had to go to a cover to kind of get, you know, sort of that whatever. And you know, I'm not asking for him to be more frivolous, because certainly there's songs that rock, you know, just as hard, but you know, they all kind of have more of a a message or a context to them, whereas Just Like Firewood is just, you know, the band jamming and having a good time. And I wish they would, you know, kind of put out more of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I you know, one of the things that my friend Sam talked about is he did not go to a Wrecking Ball show during the first half of the tour. It was after it came back to Europe, and then it played again. And by that time, as Bruce often does, beginning of the tour, they do a lot of songs from the album. Then as the show grows, they do less and less, and they, you know, mix it up some more. I would have liked to have gone to a High Hope show, like when they were in Australia, where they were playing a lot of those songs. Those were official downloads that I purchased because I wanted to hear those songs, a live version. So
that's when when the live archive thing just started, and you know, they had those goofy wristbands and stuff you had to like buy.
Exactly.
But that goes back to my point too, where it's just kind of like, you know, the live archive series is great and all, and I don't want them to stop it. I love just even more so than getting the release. I like seeing it's the anticipation of what's going to be the next one, or, you know, is it finally going to be this one? But the problem I have with it is they focus so much on the epic shows and the long shows and the big stadium, you know, shows. And it's like, there's not a whole lot that's real representative of those tours. I want them to go back to a show like I was talking about on Wrecking Ball in Tampa or something, or even if it's not that specific one that, you know, I personally like, something from that leg. And I get it's maybe not as enticing to sell to people because it's not 35 songs and 3.5 hours long, but you lose the arc of the show and the message, and you lose all these great songs from the album, because by the time they get to the stadiums, it's just you know, it's a lot of more hits, and maybe there's only 2 or 3 of those songs left, and they're not in the same position, and they don't tell the same story or have the same effect. And so that's my big beef with the archive series, if I have one.
No, I totally with you. And I know that I guess the masters for the Rising tour were corrupted.
Yeah.
So there's not a, because my first show was 2002 in Dallas. It was the Rising tour. I would love to own an official version of that. I had for a while a really bad DVD bootleg, the quality was horrible, but it was it. So I would love that. And I do like the idea that at this point, almost every show he's doing, they've been releasing it, and it's kind of nice to be able to own the shows you've attended.
Yeah, but it's too bad they weren't doing that,
exactly
earlier or whatever. Because
yes,
now
absolutely.
I have those too. I've got the bootlegs of certain shows that I went to, and like you said, they're from DVDs. But it's something that at least kind of you can remember it. But yeah, the chances of me going like, here's my 5 favorite shows, and those actually getting released, especially since they're in places like Milwaukee or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Gonna happen. I get that, but give us something from a little earlier in the tour, at least that represents those shows.
Yeah, like my second show was Devils and Dust in Grand Prairie, Texas. There's no way that's going to get released because there's not anything unique to it, except Jimmy LaFay joins them at the end and does my Oklahoma home. So I don't think that's enough to get that. I do have
a hope that maybe the Devils and Dust show in Milwaukee might see the light of day, just because he had such a unique, goofy set list. There was Frankie on the piano, and he did a ton of Nebraska. He opened with Shut Out the Light.
That's kind of
cool. There. Yeah, it was an amazing show, and it was just one of those things where it was like, that was probably the third show I saw on that tour. And I was just kind of, at that point, just going, what's he going to play? That tour was just, what's he going to do tonight type tour? It was all over the place. And I'm hopeful that maybe that one is, but anything else, your standard arena show or whatever, it's not going to come from most of the ones I get to see in the Midwest. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So my number 10 was Wrecking Ball. What is your number 10?
Down in a Hole.
Ooh, nice. That did not make my list.
Yeah. I think it should have been on the Rising. I would probably, I don't know what I'd swap it out for, because, I love that album too. It's frankly, the big gripe about the Rising is it's, kind of bloated, right? Like if it was a tighter album, maybe not 15 songs, maybe 10 or 12, it would be, a classic instead of just great or whatever. But I don't know. I like something about that song. Again, it kind of comes back to the production. I like how his voice kind of starts out in the ether somewhere, and then he has that line about I forget exactly what he says now off the top of my head, but something about rising or coming to the surface, and then his voice gets clear in the song. And then also the lyrics talking about, I'm gonna dig right here till I get you back, and picturing somebody looking for their loved one in the rubble. And then he's got his family singing backup on it and everything, and plus it's just a very pretty melodic song. So High Hopes gets kind of slagged off, and probably rightly so. I can only think of maybe 5 songs in there I listen to all the time, but those 5 songs are great songs, and that's one of them.
I was about to say the same thing. Maybe so, but they are, Ron, they are good songs.
Yeah.
And next time when we go 11 through 20, we will talk about that. We are just getting started, so we're going to cut it off here, but come back in 2 days. We'll have part 2 of our Breaking Down the Decade. Ron, if someone wants to reach you, what's the best way?
I'm pretty much the only social media I do is on Twitter, so it's David on the Wire, which is from Born to Run, and that's it.
Okay, very nice. Well, send us an email. Let us know what we got wrong on our decade. I'd love to see other people's decade list. I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. Please go get vaccinated, get your booster. Let's get through this. Rumor is now that we may not get a show till 2023 because of the variant. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I saw the news today. Well, I don't know if it's news because it's still a rumor, but it said something like probably not till 2023, and everybody is pretty bummed out. So
it is. We're bummed out, but I do agree. You want them to be safe, and so whatever they think is the right thing. All right, come back in 2 days, and for now, take care, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, so I'm going to give us like 2 minutes of silence so that way I'll know where to edit this, and then we'll
Sounds
start
good.
again. Okay,
All
so
righty.
hang tight. Do you need a bio break or you need anything to drink?
No, I'm good. I'm kind of fighting a cold. I actually took my
Yeah.
first COVID test this whole time. I've been healthy as I've ever been throughout COVID because,
Yeah.
everybody's been wearing masks and
Hmm.
distanced and home. And now all of a sudden I've got this really crappy cold. So,
We have 11 people out with
yeah.
either COVID or something. And it's crazy. We just don't know. And that's why I do understand if they're sitting there going, I don't know, is this
Yeah.
really smart to do this? Because think how much money it would cost us
Yeah.
to have to reschedule.
I
So
do worry that there's going to be well, not worry, but it's going to be a tough ticket to get. It's always kind of hard because the diehards, always snatch up the good seats anyway.
yeah.
But with all this pent up, stuff, and I think it's getting built up more in the media. And I don't know if that's just my Twitter bubble or whatever, but it seems like a lot of people are talking about Springsteen tour. He's always trending, now, whereas he maybe wasn't before. And I just feel like maybe people are going to treat it like this thing that, like, oh, this is finally happening, or it's like an event, and you're going to have a lot of people trying to get him the longer he waits, and it's going to wreak havoc on the rest of us. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Hang on. Give me just a few seconds of silence.
Sure.
All right, that's enough for me to catch. All right, here we go. Part 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Leslie Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and my friend Ron is back. We've taken a break. We went and had a nice beverage, a cup of coffee, did our bio breaks, and now that we are back on part 2 of our discussion of what are our favorite Bruce Springsteen songs of the last decade. For those of you who missed the previous episode, please go back and listen to it. But we took the idea of everything that Bruce released officially, like box sets and albums from 2010 to 2020, basically The Promise to Letter to You. And Ron and I said, okay, we're going to pick our 20 favorite songs, not necessarily our best songs, not necessarily the songs we think are most epic, but the songs that mean something to us and we enjoy. We've already gone through 1 through 10. We are doing this. I am doing it chronological in the alphabetical order, and Ron, being a very good person, is doing it purely chronological by track order. So we have gone through The Promise and Wrecking Ball.
Do you want to recap our top 10 so far?
Yeah, why don't? Yeah, go ahead. You do your 10, and then I'll do mine. I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Number 1 for me was Save My Love from The Promise. Number 2, We Take Care of Our Own, Wrecking Ball. Death to My Hometown is number 3. This Depression is number 4. Number 5 is Wrecking Ball. Number 6 is Rocky Ground. Number 7 is Land of Hope and Dreams. Number 8 is American Land. So it's a lot of songs from Wrecking Ball right there. It shows you what a great album that was. Number 9, Just Like Firewood, and number 10, Down in the Hole, both from High Hopes.
Very nice. And I went even more on Wrecking Ball. I did my number 1, Ain't Good Enough for You. 2, Save My Love. 3, The Promise. 4, American Land. 5, Death to My Hometown. 6, Jack of All Trades. 7, Land of Hope and Dreams. Then Rocky Ground, We Take Care of Our Own, and Wrecking Ball. And there were actually 7 songs of the 10 that we had in common. So that made it for a fun discussion. All right, so I'm going to start us off this time. I have switched over to High Hopes. I did Frankie Fell in Love. I just love that song. I love the whole the joy of it, the whole idea of Shakespeare and, Einstein having a beer, that's poetry, that line. I just love that song. That song makes me happy. I am so sad I've never heard it live. It is. When people talk bad about High Hopes, I go, yeah, but it's got Frankie Fell in Love in it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Not to mention a bunch of other good ones. I think that album's kind of underrated. I mean, I know it's not his best by any measure.
Yeah.
And, maybe only half of it is good, but there's definitely a lot of good stuff on there. That was on my short list. I had to cut it. I probably replaced it with Down in the Hole, which I just think is a more, impactful song. But yeah, I agree with you. That's definitely one of the keepers on that album.
Good. So what's your number 11 then?
Number 11 is The Wall. I love that song right from the first time I heard it. And I think the first time I heard it was on the Devils and Dust tour. And I was like, man, why doesn't that exist? Why has this not been put out? I had a crappy bootleg of it that I, would listen to all the time. So I was thrilled to see it on the new album. I don't know which one I like better. Solo piano is very powerful. And, but I also like what they did with it on the album. I like the way they kind of get the trumpet in there doing the sort of taps kind of cadence at the end. And on tour, that was very powerful. And he often paired it with Born in the USA. He'd do The Wall and then go into Born in the USA. And that was just, phenomenal. So that song lyrically, musically, thematically, and on tour, it covers all the bases. I love it.
It is my next. It is number 12 on my list. I love this song. I was lucky enough to see it live, it's under the. If you go to My Boss Time, they have that whole database, and the Wall is he's only done it 12 times, and and I got to see it once, so I was very happy with that. A very understated, powerful song about the consequences of Vietnam War and surviving. And I do think that in Springsteen on Broadway, the blues version of Born in the USA works amazing, but he could have just as easily put The Wall in there when he talked about, who went in his place.
Yeah, and the Shoshone brothers and all that. That's how
exactly.
he spent, I don't know if you've seen the videos from some of the tours or the High Hopes versions, but he'd do this long kind of opening monologue where he talked about the Shoshone brothers, prior to the Broadway stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I kind of heard about them. And and then to have him go into that song. And it's also, an angry political song. It's melodic and beautiful, but it's as angry as Born in the USA or, anything else.
Yeah.
And when you listen to it. So it's one of his best. And
the sarcasm of, Robert McNary says he's sorry.
Right.
Just this whole thing. Yeah. And absolutely. If you guys have not checked out, the Shoshone brothers were on the podcast just a few months ago. Great. Both of them great storytellers. And it was very touching to hear them, how much it meant to them for Bruce to say so much love about their father. So it was absolutely great.
Yeah, and it also creates this great, I don't know, you can really feel it. He's singing that line about, the wind rustling the leaves as they fall and all this stuff. And you can just feel that. They got the production or whatever you want to call it, just 100% right on that song. So,
which goes back to, right, for those of you who giving High Hopes, short shift, as they say. I'm not saying everything's a home run, but there are songs that are. I mean, that there are songs that I would be happy to hear live, and I think that hold up Bruce's catalog. So very nice.
I will say, ironically, how we were talking about Wrecking Ball, and I said I actually like some of those versions of like American Land and Wrecking Ball itself better than the original versions or live versions on High Hopes, it's the complete opposite. I didn't think there was much value in the remakes of Ghost of Tom Joad or American
Yeah.
Skin. They're fine,
Yeah.
but it's not going to replace the other ones for me there.
Yeah,
So
I absolutely agree with that. All right, so 12 would have been The Wall for me. What's your number 12?
12, I'm moving into Western Stars, and I'm going with Hitchhiking to kick things off. This was not set in stone. I think I had Meet Me in the City Tonight here, but I swapped it out. Hitchhiking has kind of really grown up. I always liked it. I thought it was a great album opener, but I always kind of thought of it as sort of a toss-off song. It's kind of just like a nice little opening ditty. It didn't really mean a lot, but over the last 2 years listening to that album, I really like it. I love the way it builds. It's got all the best qualities of all the other great songs on that album. So I have a top 5 from that album, and that just kind of squeaks in underneath it. And so yeah, I stuck it in there instead of Meet Me in the City, which is a great song. I'll give it an honorable mention here, but I don't listen to it nearly as much, at least not these days. So.
Yeah, Hitchhiking did not make my list. I thought about it, and it is, I'm thinking of the film version of Western Stars as well.
Yeah.
What a wonderful way to kick off that, that barn, and you hear the musicians, and so a great song to start the album.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And like I said, it kind of just builds, the music, a new instrument just drops in every verse, and
yes,
the tempo picks up a little bit, and the lyrics are great too. They're nothing special, but he paints a terrific picture of this guy on the side of the road and all the different people he gets in the cars with, and his voice is amazing on that. He's hitting notes that I think there was maybe even a little work done in the film. I don't know, it's pure speculation or conjecture on my part, but it seems like there's a bit of a echoiness or a falseness, because I would be surprised if he could hit that that whole song like that live.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's interesting. I don't know. I just love that. I love the kind of one-sided conversation, right? Like you're hearing him, oh yes, children are a blessing, and this whole where you hear just his side of the conversation, but you can imagine the other one. So absolutely good choice. I haven't left High Hopes yet. This Is Your Sword is a song that I feel like it is a modern version of Onward Christian Soldiers that I used to sing growing up in the Southern Baptist churches.
Sure.
I think it is just such a song about faith and hope and being strong. So it is a song that I just love a lot, and so it had to make my list.
Yeah, it didn't make mine, but I know Tom Morello has said it's maybe his favorite song or favorite song from that album.
Yeah.
I guess is probably what he meant to say, but on the tour, I think he was a little bummed they didn't play it more. But I don't know why Morello of all the songs would gravitate towards that one, but I think he's mostly talking songwriting perspective. So.
But as I've said many times on the show, Tom Morello is the reason why I did not get it in Houston. Yeah. Because they were going to open with This Is Your Sword. And Tom went to Bruce and said, hey, it's Houston. Let's do Seeds. So
I know. That's a heartbreaker. I've seen that happen a couple of times where they've audibled out of, something. And I'm just like, damn it. That's the one I was.
Exactly. That is. Yes. Yeah. All right. So what is your number 13?
13 is The Wayfarer.
Great.
Yeah, of all the songs on Western Stars, there's well, I don't know. We're gonna get to them in a second, so I don't know how much I want to say right now. But
okay,
the title track and The Wayfarer were kind of the first two that hit me in terms of just pure kind of storytelling or whatever, like creating a scene and that kind of thing. And I know there's other songs on there, the Stuntman and all this, but those two, and particularly The Wayfarer. And I think what I really like about that is the music, but I also just like the idea of him kind of revisiting the sort of the Born to Run persona of, the runner, the guy who, isn't stopping and that sort of thing. And this is where he's at now. And between that and just a very jovial musical accompaniment and everything. I think it's just a really great song. It kind of flashes back to like a like a Western or something. It kind of gallops along, and I really love that one. That one jumped out at me right away on that album.
Yeah, there's a lot of Western stars that could have made my list, but I had to drop it down.
Yeah.
My number 14 is Meet Me in the City. I know you talked about that.
Yeah.
It was hearing it on Saturday Night Live, when he performed. And then I heard it I ended up going to 4 shows on the River tour when they were doing the River in its thing. And just that coming out and then, kind of at the break, we're like, we're going to take you down to the river, and this whole, I think it's a great opening song. Once again, it was on my list of great opening songs we see. I think, there's a lot of talk about would you do Ghost or Burning Train or whatever you do from Letter to You to start.
Yeah.
But I would never be disappointed with Meet Me in the City starting off a concert. So I had to include it on that. So it's the only thing that ties it behind that made it, but yeah.
Yeah, well, like I said, I had it on my list initially, and I swapped it for Hitchhiking at the last second. But I do agree, it's a fun song, and it's one of those that seems to happen a lot where it's played a lot initially on its respective tour, and they never touch it again, and that's unfortunate because it is a fun song, and even not as an opener, it would just be fun if you pull it out in the middle of the set, or somebody had a sign for it if they would do it, or whatever. But I totally agree with you. It's and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about like Just Like Firewood and Save My Love, and some of these are just fun songs, and I just wish they'd kind of play more of those sometime just for the fun of it. But.
Absolutely. All right, so what is number 14?
14 is Western Stars, and I kind of alluded to it when I was talking about the Wayfarer, but those two as a pair I really like, and I discovered this after the fact, and this came out first, but I went to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, shortly after this album came out.
Sure.
Movie, and it's almost verbatim the story or soundtrack of of that film. It's this failed, or not failed, but this star from the past who's kind of wrestling with older age, and he just sort of kind of goes through town to different bars and stuff like that. But again, the music is so rich and lush on that song, on the whole album, really. But again, like Wayfarer and a couple of the other ones I'm going to end up talking about here, you combine the music and the lyrics, and it's lightning in a bottle on some of these tracks. It's just insane how good some of those songs are. And like we were talking about in the last episode, I guess, I don't understand why radio doesn't know what to do with some of these, because I've got one coming up here in a minute that I think would be great on radio. And I think Western Stars would be. I think the Wayfarer, although it sounds like a throwback to, something from the 60s or 70s, you could probably find a spot for that somewhere. If Rod Stewart can have hits doing old standards and sell millions of copies, I don't know why we can't get some of Bruce's, more experimental stuff on radio and see if like maybe, some boomers will go, I forgot about that guy and he can actually still sing, and let's go buy that. And I don't know who's dropping the ball there, but anyway, that song is magnificent. I love everything about it. The lyrics, the imagery, the music, it's perfect.
Perfect. All right. What's number 15 for you?
Well, I think you're up.
I know. I was just keeping us going. So,
all right. Number 15 is Sundown, and this is my favorite song on the album. It grabbed me right from the start. Like I said, I'll listen to the album through a couple times and find a few that I like. And Sundown, I just kept coming back to over and over and over again. And I remember sitting listening to the Sirius radio at work or whatever, and I heard some song that was on, and it was a new song. I was like, Sundown could be played right alongside this song. Again, why is this not getting any sort of radio play, at least on adult contemporary or whatever? And but yeah, lyrically, again, I hate to just keep repeating myself, but you can say this about all these songs on Western Stars, but Sundown just hits me every single time. I haven't necessarily experienced such tragedy in my love life, but it's one of those things that I can feel when he sings it. So.
Yeah, great choice. And in that same spirit, my number 15 is Hello Sunshine.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, because of that, you can get a little, in love with the blues, right?
Right.
And I think also partly is the idea that, we're getting, we're we got a new song, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh my good, what is this? Why is he posting this picture of a horse?
Yep.
And then, I always like that empty road, no place to be and miles to go,
Yep.
but miles to go is miles away. Hello, sunshine, won't you stay? One of my favorite things to do with my wife, Linda, is there is a lot to be said for flying someplace and, but there is, because you save time and all that, but there is, we just love getting in the car and turning on Sirius, and we debate, we go back and forth on which channels to listen to, and or we listen to some podcast and we just talk. And then sometimes there's this, after 35 years of marriage, there's this comfortable silence where we're just sitting there listening to the music and enjoying the road. And then I do know I have had my touch of the blues. I have had I think everyone does, struggles with, their own version of depression and everything. And so Hello Sunshine just really made my list. Just as easily could have been any of the three you picked. I absolutely adored all of it. That album, I think, is amazing that, at the age, what was he, about 68, 69, I realize he recorded it some earlier, right? But to put that album in toward this part of your career, you go, really? Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of keeping in with what he has been doing. You get an acoustic album or a more softer, whatever you want to call it, Devils and Dust and stuff like that. So it makes sense. And I guess the line on that one is, might not have the year right, but I think it was like 2011 or something is what it was slated for. And then they did Wrecking Ball instead. So I was on the back burner for almost a decade. But I mean, still, and then he went out and made the film and everything. So you could still obviously sing those songs or whatever. It's not exactly like it changed night and day. But to your point about Hello Sunshine, I had on my list. I took it off for what my next one was going to be, because I went round and round with the two of them, and I could just not leave off the next one. But I love those lyrics when it first came out. Again, I think a lot of people were kind of like, didn't know what to make of it. Underwhelmed, or like, what the hell is Bruce Springsteen doing with a song like this? But it's one that has grown on me, and the whole album too. I mean, I liked it from the jump, but I mean, now I really love it. I mean, I don't know if it's top 5, but it's knocking on that door in terms of all time. So I listen to it more than Letter to You, which is newer. But I'm always moved to just put that one on, and then I skip a couple songs here and there, but for the most part, it's a stellar album.
Yeah. I'm my next one is Tucson Train. Okay. I just love this song. I love the story. I feel like it is a mini movie. I've talked about this on the podcast. The whole idea, I see this guy's life, or in my mind, where he has messed up strong. He is, I don't know if it's substance abuse. I don't know if it's adultery. I don't know if it's what it is, but he has burned the bridges between this and his significant other. And he has gone through redeeming himself. This is a redemption story. This is, and I just see him saying, just give me a weekend. Just give me a weekend, and I can show her a man has changed. I love Bruce's version of it. I love when Little Steven and his band did a version of it. My hope is when we get a tour, we get at least it. I don't know if we're going to get many Western Star songs, with the E Street Band, but I would love to see that one. So I had to put that one on my list.
Yeah, and I think you have a safe bet if he's going to play anything, it'll be, that one. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people think Sleepy Joe's Cafe is an easy one for the band to just kind of knock out, but that's low on my list of the ones I want to hear from that album. But I think, the best shot at it might be a fan throwing up a sign and him doing something acoustically.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I could see Hello Sunshine. I could see, even Hitchhiking or The Wayfarer or something like that. But yeah, it's a shame, with COVID and everything, there's probably a better chance of hearing more of those songs if they had gotten out closer to it. But by the time they actually get out on the road, even Letter to You is going to be a question mark unless he doesn't release anything new. So it's too bad that album got unfairly just lost in the shuffle, I think, for a lot of people. Fans seem to love it, which is great. And that's probably all that matters. But it just never really took off the way I was hoping it would.
And I am glad we got the film. I mean, I think that is special. Right. And that is something to see. All right. So what's 16 for you?
Moonlight Motel.
Great choice.
Bruce has this habit of, closing his albums really strong. The title tracks to his albums are often really strong, and so are the closing tracks, and that's definitely the case here. And this song just wrecks me. I can feel it. I know what it feels like to go kind of driving by your old haunts, and again, maybe I don't have the same, like, it's not as dramatic or epic as the way it's posted in some of these songs, but just again, much like Western Stars and Sundown, when he's sitting there talking about, he's laying in bed at night and the wind blows open the door and he's got to get into his car and he goes and pours out a shot in the parking lot and he's thinking about the, what's now like a rusted fence and a dirty pool and what it used to be like. And I mean, man, just, I don't know how the hell he does it. I don't know what else to say about it, but it's just top-notch songwriting. It's beautifully arranged, beautiful music. And it's so weird to hear an album and some songs like this coming from the same guy who did, something like Wrecking Ball or High Hopes, which is just completely different. And, it's all production and it's all loops and, stuff like that. And then you move into something so melodic and orchestral and, whatever. And he also knows how to just get his voice and the lyrics to match just so. And I don't know. Again, this album is amazing. And that song is, probably, if I'm saying Sundown's maybe my favorite because I keep going back to it all the time, but if I had to just be like objectively what's the best song of the album, I think Moonlight Motel is probably it.
Yeah, I agree. It's just an absolutely wonderful song and just the perfect, kind of just, that's another one you could see a sign, and him doing acoustical, would just go crazy. Like in Europe, a lot of times with sound checks, he'll go out, and just do a couple of songs for people. So that would be on my list.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't forget about this album or those songs or that. And does something with it somehow. Like I said, I think Tucson Train's a pretty safe bet, but beyond that, I really don't know.
Yeah. So. All right, so we're off to 17. I now move to Letter to You. Right, so I'm picking up, and I start with Burning Train. Okay. I just for the longest time, I just, in the film on Apple, that's the song they play over the ending credits. But to me, it just sounds like a great song. And then when I heard him do Ghost on, Saturday Night Live, I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe that would be a great way to start a show. But just for some reason, I thought Burning Train would just sound so perfect when they're all on stage and they start playing. So just a song that I love on the album.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I think a lot of people think that is a, natural for an opener. I can see that too. I do think Ghost is a better opener. And I thought about it with Max's kind of propulsive drum beat, which is how a lot of shows start. We take care of our own and stuff like that. So I think that makes more sense. But then when they did it on Saturday Night Live, they just cut that out and he just went into, singing. And I thought that was also powerful. I guess I'm not sure what would be better. But I do kind of see that being the opening song, unless he decides to like kind of close with it as a way of, which would be cool instead of just like shout or something, but
exactly.
Set. But but yeah, Burning Train I think would make a great opener. It didn't quite make my list because I've only got room for whatever it is for.
I understand. Yes. So, all right, you're 17.
Number 17, Last Man Standing, which also falls into the category of the song that, when I first played it, hit me the hardest on the album. I listened to it over and over again. There's something about it I just love. I love when Bruce talks about, the old band days and the idea that he's the last one there. And it's kind of funny. My grandpa is, 90-ish, 90, I think, this year. And, all he talks about is, dying and stuff like that, because all of his friends have passed on, and he just lost another one this week, and it's like he's the literal last man standing. So that song just kind of keeps coming back into my head for that reason alone. But no, I think it's a great song. I love the whole concept and the motion of it, and I also just like the way it swings and moves, and I think it's kind of underrated. People don't really talk about that one too much, and I would have thought it'd be one of the bigger ones on there, but maybe Ghost kind of does some of the same things. So maybe that's why, I don't know, but Last Man Standing seems to get unfairly overshadowed. So I'm throwing it on my list.
Good for you. It did not make my list, but I certainly liked it. I'm very happy with Letter to You altogether. So great one. My 18th was If I Was the Priest. Okay. I was not someone that was eager about these, we've got these unknown songs, but when I got the first download, I was at work, and I've got my headphones on while I'm at my desk, working on some reports or stuff, and I would just play If I Was the Priest over and over again. Yeah. And just I just love that. I've said many times that I feel like it's what Outlaw Pete wants to be. Yeah. So immediately, if you ask me, name your top 2 or 3 songs from Letter to You, If I Was the Priest would get listed. Yep. All right. Next, number 18 to you. Well, it's If I Was a Priest. That's why I didn't have much to say there. It is of those 3. It's definitely my favorite. I don't even really care for the other 2 that much. Songs for Orphans is okay, although I think I kind of like it better on that Devils and Dust version. And then the other one, Janie Needs a Shooter, I don't really care for it that much at all, to tell you the truth. So I mean, it's fine. It's not a bad song. I still listen to it here and there, but I usually skip it, and it's just not anything that jumps out at me. And there's something about his vocal on there I don't like. However, If I Was a Priest, I really do like. I like the lyrics, the whole idea of Jesus kind of, being this guy, like walking this guy through a brothel and all this other stuff is just, I don't know. But even taking that all out of it, I think of those 3 songs, that's the one that just feels the most realized, like a song that could, be on the radio or something like that. The other 2 are just a little kind of too messy and wordy, and not that If I Was a Priest isn't, but I think in terms of that type of songwriting, that style of song, it's far and away the best one. And yeah, I like the choruses. I like the way Steve's solo is out at the end, and he mentioned something on Twitter, I think, where that's the only solo that he's got on a recorded on a album. Exactly. So that's kind of funny too. But yeah, that one jumped out at me right away. So I really love that one too. Yeah, absolutely, so nice. And the music, and I saw that also, and it was a great solo. Though when I watched the Apple thing, I'm like, how could you play the guitar with that many rings? Yeah. So yeah. Very nice. All right, 19 for me is I'll See You in My Dreams. Land of Hope and Dreams was the song that I had jokingly said that, I hope my son will speak at my funeral years from now. Yeah. I'll See You in My Dreams is pretty close. It is just something beautiful about that. I did not get to go to Broadway this second time, but I loved how he changed that, and him talking about being on stage. He gets to spend time again with his father and Clarence and Danny and the Shushan brothers. Yeah. Just a really powerful song. Yeah, you are correct.
So my number 19 is Ghosts, which, yeah, in terms of the songs that were released ahead of time, from Letter to You, I liked Letter to You. It was kind of like, We Take Care of Our Own for me, in that I was like, or Save My Love, even, where I was just happy to have a new song. So I listened to it to death, as I always do. But I didn't think it was great or anything. But Ghosts was, excuse me a second. Ghost was like next level. I was like, oh, here we are back to the rock and E Street Band. So, and then also just the sentiment of it all, and what it's saying, and them talking about, being at the Union Hall and cranking the Telecaster up to 11 to burn this town down and all that. It's great, and it's gonna be great live. It was great at Saturday Night Live, and I can't wait to see him work it up in concert. So,
yeah, it did not make my list. My final list, it was on my list, and it was like, I have really had to think. And in fact, I went all the way back, like, okay, should I drop off like Save My Love or The Promise? And I was like, right. Is it really a fair thing if we just, if I put 8 songs from Letter to You, right. So I decided, so I'm glad it made the list.
So I'm curious about your 20, because I'm trying to think in my head. You're doing it in alphabetical order. We're at the end here. So
the Power Prayer.
Okay.
The Power Prayer. I just love that song. I once again, the idea that, we find salvation in a 3-minute record, the idea of the whole being, this Benny King and all the stories, and, often, Penn Jillette talks about that, he's a very vocal atheist. And he says, and I don't know if Bruce is an atheist, but there are songs that it feels like an atheist believe in. Bruce is definitely a Reformed Catholic, and he's very honest about that. Right. But I do believe that if this podcast is about connections, but I also think the podcast is about the power of music and the joy and the magic of what we do. And so the Power of Prayer just really, it is my wake up song on my phone. When every morning I wake up to that sound, that is the alarm. So I just love that song.
That's great. Yeah. It's funny. I've got a couple different alarms set, and I try to wake up to something, melodic, and obviously a lot of it's Bruce, and I've got, The Rising, which kind of makes sense. And then
that's a great idea.
Yeah. And the Moonlight Motel is another one that kind of starts off, gingerly. So, there you go. I don't know. Alarm clock recommendations, I guess.
Yeah. Perfect.
So my final one is I'll See You in My Dreams, and you've kind of covered it, and it's a great closer, great closer to the decade and the whole thing, the Broadway show and everything. I was a little bummed when I heard that Born to Run was jettisoned for it. I kind of wondered why you couldn't just still do Born to Run and put I'll See You in My Dreams as the last song. I don't know why it had to be one or the other, unless he just had to be out of there in a flat 2 hours or whatever. But either way, it was, if you saw both shows, I guess it didn't matter too much. I only got to see the second one. I had seen the Netflix, so it's fine. I know what Born to Run looks like and sounds like, but still, I think it would have, for maximum catharsis or whatever at the end there, I would have liked him to keep it. But I did think it was a very emotional way to end that show. Like you said, his intro talking about, why that's an important song. And then the performance of it too is great. You strip away the band and everything, and that's still a great acoustic song. He plays it with a certain amount of urgency. So it's not just a, boring, plaintive, kind of funeral song. It's actually, it's a great acoustic song. So
yeah, I absolutely agree. As I had talked about, it made my list. I can, in a lot of ways, the first 7 shows I went to, he did not play Thunder Road. then the next 8, he did play it, and often it's the final song, right? Like after the band leaves, he comes out with just his guitar. The first time I heard it was in Dallas, and Patty sang background when he did Thunder Road. And I do think Thunder Road acoustic is a great way to end the show. But I could absolutely see him doing I'll See You in My Dreams to end the show live now. And I talked about this on the podcast that a month or so ago. We went to New Orleans to see James Taylor and Jackson Browne. Jackson Browne opened, James Taylor, technically the headliner. They did a couple of songs together, and my only regret is because Jackson Browne wasn't the final, he didn't do, the Load Out and Stay, which I assumed he would do if he was the one closing. And I would love to see, I did not see Dream Baby Dream, which was another one I had to leave off my list. And I always wanted to see that live because we love that song as a family. And I See You in My Dreams I think would be a great show closer. And you're right. It feels like you could do, if I don't want to tell Bruce how to run his show, but like you could actually see Born to Run, everyone's yay. And then, I got one more to send you off, and then do I See You in My Dreams. Right.
For sure. I think if you construct the set smartly, you can still get all those songs in and have them have that same impact. And again, I don't want to tell Bruce how to do it, but a lot of times he'll just kind of retreat to something safer that he's done a million times, and it's like, you could have tucked that one right in there, that'd have been great. But
well, one of the things, and like I said, I've told this story multiple times where Chris, the first time he saw the show, he's like, what's the deal with Shout? Is this a junior high dance? And and you do wonder if Detroit medley, and it, like, have 3 or 4 classic songs that he could rotate, that instead of just Shout. Though he loves to do Shout. And I remember it was, I can't remember which tour, but someone said, we need to get used to hearing Waiting on a Sunny Day, because it's obviously Bruce loves playing Waiting on a Sunny Day.
Yeah, I'm sure he likes it, and I'm sure it gets the response he's looking for. Nobody just sits on their hands when you're doing Shout, but I don't know, in my mind, and I get wrapped up in it too sometimes, and I enjoy it, but it's just kind of a lot of bands do it, and for that reason. So it feels a little cheap, especially when, this guy's got so many songs everybody's begging to hear. There's got to be something that you can end with that has that same effect, and then, make room for some of these things that just never get played. But it's a minor quibble, and I'm splitting hairs here. I don't care how plays, and I don't want to, sound like a spoiled fan because I hate those guys. But
exactly, yeah.
But in my dream set list scenario, Shout and Twist and Shout and stuff is not on that. Is not taking up valuable real estate. Let's put it that
exactly. Yes, absolutely. So we ended up with 10 matching.
All across the board?
Yeah, all across the board. We ended up, as we went to, once we hit High Hopes and Western Stars Letter to You, which goes to show you how much these albums are loved. We both had The Wall, we both had If I Was the Priest, and I'll See You in My Dreams. We both obviously love Wrecking Ball.
Surprisingly, I didn't really think about it too much until I put this list together, but I was like, damn, that whole album could go on here. I mean,
it could, absolutely.
I guess I like
it's
it
great. So all right. So I think we've talked about this before, but as we're recording this, it's first part of January. We'll probably play this toward the end of January, but the rumor floating is that they may be delaying touring till 2023. I saw little Steven on Twitter being his he can be very snarky on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, like, we never officially announced a tour, so therefore we don't need to announce a cancellation, right?
Yeah. Well, there's that one poster they let slip. I guess from what I heard, they were about to put those on like literally the next day, and then they decided not to do. That's why that poster went out. Like it went up a day early because they were going to announce it like the next day or something, and then they pulled it last minute. So we were that close.
Yes.
But it probably would have been canceled, anyway. So maybe it's better to not have done it. But and now you do understand why these guys don't want to, say anything until it's time, because this is exactly what happened.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is this, so many people can, there is one Twitter person that's still screaming,
yeah, I know
that, why am I not getting tracks 2?
Yeah.
Though I will give them credit that once they heard the no nukes, they went, okay, I'm going to take it back. This was cool.
That guy goes back to the Backstreets forum, and it's his shtick, and I'm not shy about saying that he's a pain in the ass. But
yeah, exactly. But he might be a pain in the ass. Absolutely, yes.
How about you got any other honorable mentions or runners up? Like we didn't even touch on there's the American Beauty EP, the Blinded by the Light soundtrack. He did duets with Dropkick Murphys. There were like 2 of them officially released.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. That's a great discussion. I thought about the American Beauty. Nothing made the list. There's probably there probably are a couple other songs on The Promise that if I'd had more, like if you had said, okay, let's pick 5 from each of these, and then we'll whittle them down, I probably could have, because there was a time, once again, as we all talk about this, where when you get these 2 new, it was a double CD set, I was listening to that, and there were a lot of great songs on there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
the one that I would have had on there that I just completely forgot about, I had Ain't Good Enough for You, and then like I said, when my rules kicked in or whatever, I took it off, I replaced it with Hitchhiking, I guess, because that was kind of a last minute ad. But I didn't think of this at the time. Little Things My Baby Does, which isn't a song anybody really cares about or talks about. I would put that on my underrated list, frankly. Yeah. But that could have gone on there because I'm pretty sure that's a 2010 vocal or 2009 or whatever. And I think that's a really cute song. It's been my phone did this thing where it makes these videos of my kids, and I matched it with that. And even though they're not talking about that kind of baby, like it works really well for that. And again, it's kind of a fun 70s sounding song with a current vocal, so it feels like something they could play now, and it would recall those days. And again, he didn't touch any of that stuff on tour, which seems to be the big theme here. But yeah, that's one song I kind of kicking myself for leaving off there. But
yeah, I think that's a very fair. That's a good choice. I'm trying to think what else we could do. I liked. I'm glad you mentioned Dream Baby Dream from High Hopes. I actually like High Hopes. That's not enough to make my list,
right?
But I love that.
I kind of like Harry's Place in a guilty pleasure sort of way. I know why it's not well loved, but it's got a vibe. I mean, I listened to it. It did make my short list, and I had to do I had to cut it down. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the Easy Money is one that
that would have been good.
Had to cut it. There's some stuff on the American Beauty EP. I wouldn't ever make this list, but I do like some of those songs. A lot of them are kind of reworked melodies from Devil's Dust and Magic Tunes and stuff. But there's stuff on there. The 2 Dropkick Murphys songs are pretty good. Again, wouldn't make my list, but I listen to those every now and then. So it's, for a decade from an artist who is was 60 to 70 at the time. I mean, he's prolific as hell, which is no secret to us, but it's kind of crazy the amount of stuff he's got out there and the amount of quality stuff. It's not just like quantity or putting out stuff that was left over. I mean, this is, the catalog itself right here,
I haven't talked about this on the podcast, so I'm glad you're bringing it up. And I will end up talking about this a little bit. My other musical idol is Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. I think, solo group, I just think Brian is brilliant. Yeah. And, he just put out a new CD, and it is him. It's called At My Piano, an album by Brian Wilson. And all it is him playing Beach Boy songs on the piano.
I mean, sign me up. If Bruce did something like that, I would take it in a heartbeat. So,
and it is. I mean, it is. He is doing. God Only Knows and California Girls and Good Vibrations and Wouldn't It Be awesome. Nice on the piano.
I don't know how that got by me. I'm gonna pick that up. That sounds like a great.
And I bought it and I love it. It is great. And I don't mean this as a criticism, but
I know what you're going to say.
Here's an album where, this is, it's not breaking new ground.
Right. He's resting on his laurels, ran out of gas for new songs. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. And now in this case, it's beautiful. And, right. and I think this is the proof that I go, here's what he wrote. He said, "We have an upright piano in our living room, and from the time I was 12 years old, I played it each and every day. I never had a lesson. I was completely self-taught. I can't express how much the piano has played such an important part of my life. It has brought me comfort, joy, and security. It has fueled my creativity as well as my competitive nature. I play it when I'm happy or feeling sad. I love playing for people, and I love playing alone when no one is listening. Honestly, the piano and the music I create on it has probably saved my life." Brian Wilson.
That's perfect. That's a good reason to do it. And frankly, if Bruce was in that space, I would say bring it on. So I'm kind of of two minds about it. I don't mind if he wants to do a piano version of all his songs, but the fact that he's still making also new records is the thing that puts him.
Well, so. I have said I want Bruce to do whatever he wants to do, right. And I'm going to support him because he's earned the right to do what he wants to do. And in Bruce's case, it's doing Western Stars, which is a very different kind of album. Letter to You with the album, it's great. Same thing. Brian Wilson has earned the right to do whatever he wants to do, and I would love to hear what you think of it. Just shoot me an email because it's hilarious. It is so because these are such great songs, and just to hearing, there's no vocals, it's just him on the piano, and it's just beautiful. So very nice. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, my friend. Once again, if someone wants to, I know you're on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
R. David on the Wire.
Okay. And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW. So you're going to join me again in 2 or 3 weeks. Why don't you tease our audience what our next topic is going to be?
All right. Well, we talked a little bit about songs that we felt were maybe overlooked or underrated, or they made this list or other lists of ours where people don't seem to share our affection for them or even just talk about them a lot. So I thought it'd be cool to do another list show where we pick our favorite underrated tracks or most underrated tracks or overlooked or however you want to look at it. So we'll have to figure out the exact rules and criteria, I guess. But I've got a list of 20 just in my head that I could throw out right now. So,
well, yeah. And I think, I know that if you go to Rolling Stone's 100 greatest Springsteen songs and you go, really? That's only 85?
Right.
I mean, that's almost a good place to start right there. So that'll be a lot of fun. And so we'll do that. My friend, I hope you had a great holiday season. I wish you and your family the very happiest of New Year's. Please stay safe. I know that all of us are trying to fight this, this horrible, virus, and it is just taking so much from us. So please be safe and take care of your family. Listeners, thank you, sir. Listeners, you be safe. Go get boosted. Go get your virus. Go get vaccinated, and let's take care of each other. And we will talk to you soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Doing a podcast at times can be a one-way conversation, and I hate that. So please let me know what you like and don't like about the work I'm doing. You can reach the podcast via email at setlistingbruce@gmail.com. The show is on Twitter at setlistingbruce, and my personal Twitter is at jessejacksondfw. We have a website, www.setlistingbruce.com. From there, you can find links to other Springsteen podcasts as well as other music-themed podcasts. We have a page devoted to our own SLB All-Star Band. These are guests who have been on the podcast more than 3 times. There is a link to our store where you can purchase Set Listing Bruce shirts as well as a Merry Question t-shirt. There is a link to our Patreon page where you can sign up to help support the podcast financially. We have different levels and different rewards based on your support. If you don't have any extra cash, and right now who does, you can support the podcast by subscribing via your favorite podcast player and leaving us a review. The more reviews we have, the easier it is for people to find us. And please tell a friend about the podcast, especially if they love Bruce or music, because it will make a difference.
You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.